We'll try, I guess.
Hello. Welcome to Jarviskjir Narashiro Nights. The team's motto being, we'll try, I guess.
Accurate.
How's everyone doing? I see William's enjoying a nice high-quality summer straub. I gained more respect for strawberries yesterday, having some during that heat wave.
That's what they're for.
Yeah.
I mean,
And watermelon.
they're for eating.
So I had peeps over, and our greatest boy Ben, who's in the Monday game, it was coming later, and it's like, oh, is there anything you want to bring us? And we were like, well, watermelon. But just to make it clear, Ben, this is a joke, because he was like, oh, watermelon, but he will bring watermelon if we say this is a joke. And then he's like, oh, they didn't have watermelon, here's a whole punnet of strawberries instead. Like, what? Yes! And that's what heroes do. So, last week you did a lot of miscellaneous things, which didn't really turn out to be connected to anything. But what did happen is that you met a strange little dude named Rofi, who is helping you to find Tanuma, who has remembered that there might be, that there is and might still be a forward camp in a place called the Roots that she used as a laboratory. And you're going there to see to either find her or any clues about her whereabouts. So, that's where we start off. You four and Scritches the Beetle.
With a K.
Yeah, Scritches. Making your way to the Roots, and you just sort of started making your way down the tunnel that leads you to that area. And if I remember correctly, everyone failed any check to know what this place is, so you're just going.
I didn't have a chance.
That's true, William. Do you want to give me a history check?
No, Rakath wouldn't know. It's okay.
Well, then why bring it up?
It was, I mean,
To be
I
that
just
guy.
wanted to be included and have this conversation. That I'm back. Hello.
Well, considering you're back, Rakath, is there anything Mr. Rakath boy would like to discuss? You bought the Beetle Scritches because you rented him last time. And you're, all nice and comfortable on the back there, even though it's not a carriage or anything, because the beetles are so large, you all have more than enough space.
Sorry, who is this? I haven't been paying attention at all.
I'm gonna go over and give Rufy a big hug and lift him up because he's so small. You can flail, but you're little.
What? Who and what are you?
This is Rufy, and I'll let him continue. I'll present him.
I'm Rofi.
Rofi. And
You are very big.
oh, I'm not that large. There are larger beings than me. I mean, look at Scritches here. Much larger.
Scritches raises its head when it hears its given name. But then it goes back to moving.
Yes, but you are a very big person.
I don't know that I am a person. Some call me Rakath, which translates directly to monster. Others call me creature, others call me being, others call me creep and cruel, and
Rofi would lift up his
one
faceplate
lady called
thing
me
there.
handsome.
And I imagine he would lift it up, forget that he's had the contacts in this entire time. One of them's probably aimed down in the corner of his eye.
It's
Gets out, starts writing notes. Even if he's like still being held in there, he just gets out and starts running.
Yeah, I'll add like this. At the end of last week, you went sort of into the entranceway in this cavern that leads to the roots, and now there is pretty much very little light at all. So you're like safe to do your writing, Rofi.
Perfect. Yeah, he would be doing writing. He might even like at some stage come over and just poke Rakath in places. and
Rakath
then
probably
just walk
won't
down.
notice if he's doing something.
Yeah. No. Actually, Rakath is going to turn to Voss and say,
When did you get a second sword?
It was a gift.
You actually probably would hear Rofi chuckle in the corner when that's said.
I've rolled insight against your...
Well, I think it would be as much of a lie as it was meant to be like a half-truth. It's very obvious that there's
It's the
more to that
usurper way.
Yeah, it's very obvious that there's more to that story than that.
Meets the eye.
So who so graciously gave you their sword?
There was a terribly mean guard.
The captain of the guard from the district, the theater district. He bequeathed this upon me as thanks for saving his life.
Did he have a name?
I'm sure he has one, but it doesn't really matter. Hence the
Okay.
gift.
Well, I've always wondered how you swing that thing.
With your hands.
Thank you. Yes, I understood that. I was hoping that one day you might teach me.
I don't know if you would be able to maintain the proper stance, but I'm sure you would find a method of your own to wield such a weapon if that is something you're interested in.
Well, only with such a good teacher. I mean, you've already taught me to speak deep speech.
Well, it's a little different swinging a sword than speaking a language, but I would...
Well, you're a very
Yes.
dedicated teacher, as you have been sneaking into my sleeping quarters and whispering it in my ears while I sleep.
Is that what happened? Is that what we're going with?
Well, I don't know if it was you, but that's what I've been hearing at night, so I can only assume it's you.
Oh no.
I'm gonna leave that one alone. But
Anybody else had
yes,
some of this fungus?
I'm gonna like shove Voss and be like, "Of course I'll teach you, right?"
of course, I will teach you.
I can teach you something in return if you'd like.
Sure.
Perhaps you'd like to know how to torture somebody.
Very useful.
I don't need to know how to do that if I have you around, Rakath.
Well, I won't be around forever. You live much longer than whatever the hell I am. I'm
Oh,
sure.
Raka, you're never gonna die. I won't allow it.
Oh. Well, the soul surviving is very different, as we've learned, than the body.
Just have to work out a few kinks. It's fine.
Well, you know, if we acquire enough parts, and I heard in the black market that there might have been a spare arm that fell around in the theater district. We should have grabbed that. But, I've heard that there might be some additional human body parts around, and, other body parts that have flown down from areas. I think we should grab those as much as possible and acquire as many parts so we can maybe make an amalgamation at some point.
Oh, dear.
Why stop at metal bodies? That's what I...
That sounds wonderful.
Because metal is more efficient.
I would like to say
Respectively.
that during this conversation, when Rofi was eventually put down, your little horrible puppet doll familiar would have been
Right.
demanding ups to be carried in the same way.
To me?
Yeah,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah.
Oh, that's terrifying.
that reminds
I
me.
forgot about that thing.
We have a question. What happens if Yuna casts Investor on any one of us and Investors the spell Find Familiar?
We'll see, I suppose.
Not that that's something we're actually gonna do, but we were talking about this.
No,
Yes.
I don't think you can
No,
really
the DM
realistically.
the DM kills all of us again. Is what
Yeah.
We start a new party if we do that. So
No, what happens is the little baby, tiny little golems that are terrifying kill us. Is what happens.
There's nothing scary at all about Yuna's literal homunculus.
it's a doll. It's fine. Gosh.
All right. So travel continues. And all these kinds of jovial jokings happen. Rakath eating what I like to imagine is a fungus that looks and tastes exactly like strawberries. If you knew what strawberries were, this would be fascinating. The area to the roots is pretty much as the roots as anything else. The road towards it is much less of a road and more just a twisting cavern that leads to this place. The air starts to feel less fresh. Which sounds weird to think about in a cave, but you've been living in a cave with an awful lot of plant life and things, and it also being the elven territory, there is a kind of cleanness and purity to the place. This air in this cavern starts to feel stagnant. You can almost feel it being pulled and pushed down the cavern with a gentle sway from one hour to the next. The caverns themselves are mostly unlit, but there are occasionally glowing mushrooms and occasionally aether crystals up on the roofs. In fact, you actually pass quite quickly after entering this place a small... it seems to be a gnomish operation that's being overseen by usurper elves, trying to actually mine some of these crystals from the ceiling of the cavern, kind of where they kind of arc over, and they have a bunch of rafters set up so that they can lift and grab with these mechanisms to kind of dislodge them from the roofing.
Gnomes, you're talking like Underdark gnomes, right?
Yes.
Like what are they called?
Deep gnomes,
gnomes.
usually.
Yeah, it's Versneeblin.
Maybe in Faerun.
Yeah, like the dark ones. Okay.
Yeah, you would only know of deep gnomes because gnomes are too tricksy to really be part of the slaves.
Yeah,
in,
I assumed
in this place
as
as
much,
well.
I just
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, well, the
But
gnomes that you
watching
see
them
are
intently.
incredibly pale-skinned, almost ghostly, and are either working on this stuff themselves or are bullying what seem to be kobolds into doing them. They're going to have some on some very strenuous, wobbly harnesses, trying to pick at these crystals up above, which occasionally make them flash, which is probably why you would notice it so much.
Click.
Yes, the guards, kind of around it, the elven guards, who appear to be wearing... it looks like city armor, but there's a facelessness to their masks. Most samurai wear masks with a very definite face to it. Voss's family being, this shadow dragon. Others being more spider-like or more demon-like. This is just faceless, like a theater mask. And they just kind of stand in such a way to make it clear that you're not welcome, and Scritches will toddle by, occasionally flinching at the bright flashing light above.
Yeah, I'll wave to them.
yes.
One of the gnomes will wave back, and then you kind of see them get
Oh, nice.
chastised by their superior.
Aww.
Have a very successful day.
I like that.
Can
Just-
I roll a history check to kind of see if I know anything about these?
Yes,
guys?
please do.
Huzzah!
Yeah, rolling history checks on like the mask of the samurai is a great one, and this actually isn't a super hard one for a samurai. That kind of semi-facelessness is usually used by the official guard and samurai who have an oath to the daimao herself.
Gotcha.
AKA, do not mess with them.
Yeah, the Daimao
So, yeah,
is the
like some
supreme
government
leader. Yeah, they're
right
kind of
now.
government
They're
samurai.
like MPs, like police for the police, kind of.
That would definitely
Yeah.
be something they do.
I'm very curious. I'm gonna cast Sense of Motion.
Uh-oh.
You would never be within 30 feet of them.
Ah, damn. All right.
Actually, you would probably be within 30 feet of a samurai. The gnomes and the kobolds know so.
No, they're fine.
The samurai
cares?
have that
We don't-
very, honor-bound stillness to them. There's no real emotion at all.
Oh, they feel just like you sometimes, boss.
Boss just doesn't really say anything. You sense that same in this moment.
It's very empty and sad.
You sense that
Sadness and emptiness.
Rakath is
are not
very
the same
happy to be
thing.
here.
They're not the same thing, but I feel like the emptiness is very sad. Even if it's not what you yourself feel.
That may be valid. I wouldn't know.
Rakath gives Voss a little shoulder rub.
We all give boss a hug.
Yeah.
I just again like steering the beetle, like staring stone face forward. I'm like,
Please, stop.
And Scritches the Beetle continues on away from this. And other than that, you don't see civilization for several days. In fact, several weeks. But let me describe this cavern itself. As you go further through it, you get less and less of the fungal forest. That much was obvious. There's always some spores that set root out this far. But they find it much less success. The mushrooms you see here are almost like normal mushrooms you would see in a normal world. Instead of horrible, glowing monstrosities. But you see quite a bit of wildlife. These caverns is not one straight line to the roots, but it's twisted, and there are various side routes to take and foresee your way through, which your boss is handling perfectly fine. But sometimes you see moving and shifting just behind where rocks almost make a window to another chamber. Very soon you start to see more and more of these thick barky roots that are 20 feet across usually, and they're huge and almost making up the cavern themselves, twisting and moving. Sometimes you can see where they've been cut open by travelers or things like that, but they are incredibly tough. Even very little mushrooms grow on them. It makes traveling through this place, especially with a mixture of that, the darkness, the lack of civilization, but abundance of movement just a little bit away from your vision, makes it a very unsettling place to travel through, if you weren't with such good friends. But it is less than pleasant. I am going to need a survival roll from Voss to navigate some.
Sure.
Oh.
Easy peasy.
That feels good.
That's nice. You don't really get lost. You know you're going towards a large cavern that probably has its own ecosystem, so you can kind of, sense the airflow, smell water, things like that to keep you traveling. There is a point, the next time you find anything that could even be considered sentient, is when traveling an area there's kind of almost a ledge or a shelf that goes higher into the caverns. And those with better dark vision just see something moving towards your beetle. Slow at first, but very quickly gains in speed and dashes over towards you guys.
What the
Could
fuck?
you two both give me perception checks, Voss and Una?
Don't I have
Absolutely.
the dark?
Oh, you also have extended dark vision. Yes, it's only Rakath who can't see shit.
Rakath is having a lovely time just playing
It's
with
okay. I have a perception of 0. It'll be fine.
You two see a Drider approach you very fast. The Driders you see in Narashiro are of high class, the highest class. Beautiful usurper women with a spider-like lower body, usually wearing extravagant clothing, often battle armor, ruling over many people. This Drider that's approaching you seems more feral. The hair is wild and massively unkept. She has 8 eyes upon her face, which isn't entirely uncommon, but always seen as less favorable when they ascend. The spider legs aren't delicate and beauteous, but have kind of large, chunky, chitinous sections and black fur that grows out of some parts. And she dashes, and she is moving very quickly to the side of the beetle, to kind of its left side.
Oh,
So she looks
boss,
aggressive.
They look like they're in trouble. They look distressed.
You can give me insight rolls.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, no, Eunice figured out of mine. Best way to put it would be a aggressive curiosity. It's definitely not distressed or running from something. You just know how strong Driders are. Why would they have to run from something?
Yeah, I guess
We should
really
see if they need help.
What I want to know, it doesn't look like it's coming in to, like, stab the beetle.
No, it looks like it's not immediately going to attack you. But there is an air of danger to the thing.
That's what I wanted to know for this exact moment. Okay, I guess I'll just, like, kind of pull back on the reins and get the beetle to stop.
What? Why are we stopping?
Oh, yeah, I guess you can see what's happening.
Can I hear?
At this point, you would hear the quite loud sounds of the feet clacking on the.
I'm just gonna stand up and kind of face in that direction and be like, "There's a Drider approaches," and not one like what we've seen in the city.
At that point,
That's nice.
she quite literally pops up because of the beetle being 20 feet high, essentially. It actually doesn't reach the full height, but you see the Drider kind of lift back on its back 2 legs to give it a little bit more height and look towards you. The clothes it is wearing are really just a couple of rags, and those 8 eyes each looking at kind of a different one of you with this mad smile. As it speaks in Elvish out.
Nope.
I have not seen people in this place for quite some time.
It's so nice to meet you. My name is Yuna.
And
I look around for her to introduce herself and for my party to introduce themselves.
She kind of waits for the others first.
My name
Rosie
is
doesn't understand
Raka.
what's going on.
And
Yeah.
I can't see you right now, so I apologize if I'm speaking in the wrong direction.
I will give her kind of like a slight head nod and just say, "I am boss of House Nor, and this one is named Rofi. Unfortunately, he does not speak the Ascendant tongue."
I heard my name.
Yeah.
Don't
Speak
worry.
nothing but the mother tongue, but I'm sure such a little creature has nothing in its mind worth hearing.
Oh,
She
You're
likes
traveling
you. Don't
into
worry.
my territory now. And that is perfectly fine. You all seem to have sense about you. You're a smart young man who respects those who are worthy of respect. Yes?
Always. We are simply passing through in search of a friend of ours who may have gone missing in this area. We mean you no ill will.
She licks her lips with 2 tongues and looks over and says, "You may pass, give me the little one."
I'll just say, well, actually, I guess you guys can both
Oh.
understand what he's saying. I'll just kind of look to you now. And like with a look of like, I mean, it's up to you.
I got what the look was for. Oh, No, he's mine. I'm so sorry. I can't give him up.
Well, you're going to have to give one of you up. Very few
I
people
really
come
don't
out
want
this
this-
way.
I will stay.
No. Rakath, I need you to come with me.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to learn more.
Yeah, no, Rakath.
At
I'll
this
say,
point,
like
her
undercover, like she's going to
arms
eat you.
are like on the beetle,
That
and
could
they're
be fun.
just too long. And kind of almost stretched like around the four of you as she leans up on one side, looking up.
Is that what you're looking for? Are you looking for food?
I'm looking for respect.
Right. Well, I don't want this to be an issue, but if you try to touch one of my friends, I will suck your soul into a little gem and then crush it beneath my feet.
And
Well,
is something she can do, unfortunately. It is a little bit terrifying.
And you will never see your goddess again.
again. She actually hisses at that and retracts and says, "You all! You're from the city. You covered the goddess who took everything from me."
I don't.
Can I don't know what this role would be, but I'm trying to decipher what the hell she's saying.
Religion check.
Thank you. All right.
You actually see like a secondary lens cover all of those eyes all at once. So, Rakath, being a monster, you've always found what the Drow call to be ascended very interesting. When priestesses of the church reach a certain rank and level of power, they are taken away to gain the power of Idrith in either her arachnid or serpentine form. And if the ritual is successful and they are worthy, they are transformed into an ascended. If it is not successful, many other things can happen. One of the most common things is that they physically transform but lose their minds. And they're often thrown into dark places where people will never see them again, deep below the city, into the roots, into dwarven territory, places where they won't matter anymore. This is most likely one of those creatures. From looking at her, this probably happened quite a long time ago. It's even quite evident she's bearing quite a lot of scratches, scars, and actually quite a lot of muscle definition that's would not be common to a recently transformed priestess. It also kind of explains why she's literally has a more monstrous appearance, because the church defines that as not fitting the types of beauty that would be a proper ascension.
You were discarded. I'm so sorry.
You can give me a persuasion roll for that. Ooh. There's a very aggressive act. Like, she kind of retracted back to the ground and kind of was lurching back, clearly ready to spring, as spiders do. You actually even see her face starting to split in half, and the slight fangs between the face, the two halves. But you say that, and she kind of relaxes ever so slightly and looks over you all, and then looks back to Rakath with quite some confusion, and says, "Go! Leave! You can pass. I care not for what creatures like you have."
It was nice to meet you, and I am sorry again.
She flinches at that, and like fully turns and kind of very low to the ground, unlike Driders who are very high standing, kind of just disappears out of view. She's probably not even that far away.
They give Scritches the little yip yip and just get him on the move.
We should be careful on our way back. She doesn't ambush us when we're weaker.
Well, that was interesting.
Think she will. She was transformed by the church and thrown away.
That's writing more notes.
We don't have any direct affiliations with the church. I don't, anyways. Done some contract work here and there, but nothing substantial.
I can't imagine why she would be deemed unworthy.
It's often just that the process ruins the mind or the body.
In some cases, both.
Indeed. And so, one or not the other, or both, found her here. A monster, discarded.
And with a click of the reins, start scritching on away. After quite some time, this journey would take 2 to 3 weeks. The cavern starts to open up. The area known as the Roots is not a huge, directly open cavern like Narashiro is. It's much more twisted and segmented, but clearly all connected. Whereas on the way here, those large roots and bark-like appendages that stretch and curl around the caverns, where, okay, maybe there's 1 or 2. That's all the walls are in this section. It's almost as if you're inside this giant tree. And this chamber is large enough that you can't see off to the other side in the far distance. You just don't feel that same aura of grandeur and size that Narashiro gives. But there's a lot more verticality. The roots occasionally stretch across the caverns up above, holding chunks of rock on just sometimes like little islands, so they hang upwards, and you can't even see the roof either. There's just kind of clouds that block it out. There's a little bit of light. There's more aether crystal here than there is on the way here. Probably why this is such a large cavern with creatures living in it, but less so than anywhere else. And with aether crystal light, there is more plant life. But you immediately notice something when this area starts opening up and you start kind of exploring, because you don't see a city or settlement or anything like that until, a couple of hours in, when you start to hear music flowing across the air. And when you realize the source of this music appears to be a structure built into the side of the cavern on the floor level, well, what would you do? This structure, right now, all you can really see is that there is seemingly, maybe it's made out of a giant shell, maybe a giant insect, or maybe even a lizard or something like that, like a tortoise. But you can only really see the very, very edge of it as the rest of it goes off into the stone. You can see some tents outside, some flags that kind of, more like banners that kind of billow in the slight wind of this place, and the music seems to flow from inside.
I just look to Rofi and I'm like, is this the place?
Does it look like what I remember?
No. What you'd remember would be very much an alchemist's, tinkerer's little workshop.
Oh. Interesting, though.
I will then look to Yuna and say, well, it certainly warrants investigating, unless you deem it too dangerous or unnecessary.
No, let's check it out.
Boss, may I take that second sword from you?
I'll pull up the e-brake on the beetle, the B-brake. And as you say this, I'll hand you a Nodachi that I took from that dude whose arm I cut off. just say, by all means.
Thank you. I think a man of my stature with a sword of this size is quite intimidating. Might be useful for us in a place where we have to converse.
This is true. So long as they don't see you actually try to wield it. It is a very valuable asset.
Well,
However, that day will come soon, I'm sure.
you and I will work on that eventually. You still have the signal whistle, don't you?
Oh yeah, I do.
Just in case. What are we doing?
Well, I'm gonna reach out for thoughts.
Okay. Again, 30 feet. As you
I'm
approach
just
the place.
activating it now.
Yeah. You go up to the place. You see that this sort of dark opening you see is a beetle stop. There's actually other beetles and other pack animals that are sort of eating from those troughs that you sometimes see them twist, and they make quite a loud clunking noise when they do. In fact, you've noticed that Scritches is scared of them when they do that. And there you can see, built into the stone, is just a very fine fungal wood door. It actually has what kind of looks like an engraving of, a band on it, a band of musicians, and the music kind of flows out as well as voices and such. And the music is different than anything you would have really heard in Narashiro. It's not that it's more lively, it's a bit more freeform. Rakaf gets off, starts to enjoy it. And you don't really see anyone out here. But when you walk inside, the space opens up. There are actually 2 different stages with different lots of performers on. When you enter in the middle, it almost makes like a cartoon bone shape, right? When you're in the middle, you actually kind of hear both sets of music flowing together, and it isn't entirely unpleasant. This is where there's a large bar where you see all kinds of people. You see drow, deep dwarves, the occasional illithid, deep gnomes, sometimes even races from the surface like Goliath, kobolds, goblins. You see quite a lot of people all kind of enjoying the music flowing through this place, drinking and eating, and just kind of enjoying themselves. It feels like a very relaxed place.
So this is basically just like a beetle truck stop.
Yeah, it's kind of like a beetle truck stop and a jazz bar. Yeah,
Gotcha.
at the same time.
This is a cantina.
This
You can't
is a
say-
cantina.
This is a cantina.
Oh no.
Oh my goodness. How much fun. I'm gonna shake Voss's sleeve. Look at all the enjoyment.
just,
I'm gonna jump off.
I'm
Yes, of
looking
course.
around at every person here, sizing each person up. For how much threat they
You
may
can
or
actually
may-
give me an insight roll for that. Yuna, the emotion you get is mostly happiness. It's a very calm kind of happiness. There's the occasional person who's probably a bounty hunter or something who's a little less entertained, but much less than if you entered any tavern in the city, right?
Roach is just walking around like this.
Racketh is going. While also sizing everybody up.
Yeah. When it comes to looking around the place, like I said, there are clearly some people who are either here because it is a stop on the way to other places, or it's a great place to meet people. There are definitely a few bounty hunters and other people who you get the idea that they don't want to be caught. Particularly in one corner, a group of drow who are wearing very little, but carry quite strong-looking weapons. One is carrying a spell book that is literally glowing with color, and the other is wielding 2 scimitars. And you can immediately kind of think that they're connected to maybe the rumors of there being an underground slave escaping system. There's a better way for me to say that, but I'm bad at it. Other bounty hunters, the occasional, little bit of riffraff. But the person you can immediately tell is in charge is actually a Lamia, who is incredibly pale-skinned. Most Drow and Lamia retain the dark skin of Drow, but she is, almost bleached white,
Lamia
pale.
are the
Snake?
lion
No, snake people.
Snake people. Sneeple. Okay.
Sneeple, yeah.
Okay.
Humanoid top half, snake bottom half.
Okay. Cool.
In related to your check, whoever's checked before, Driders are ascended to the more military / cunning side of the church, whereas Lamia are ascended rarer because their side of the church has a little bit less backstabbing. They're still backstabbing, but the serpent goddess is the goddess of fertility and protection and things like that.
Like the more good one.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I'm assuming there's like a place to like park old scritches.
Oh yeah, you would have already done that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So do
Put him
that
into
and,
a spot.
Yeah. Make sure he's got whatever he needs, beetle stuff. And as we're kind of approaching, based on the role, I know Rakath has already noticed this, but I'll just kind of like nudge Rakath and like do one of the little like, check out those guys towards the naked-looking, scimitar-wielding, glowing book having drow.
I like that.
Oh,
and what's also, these are like professional bards, right? They are both chill and relaxed and probably ready to fight you in a place like this.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. Part of the fun of it being on both sides.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna fuck around and dance and play games and drink.
Yeah.
That's
Hell
all
yeah.
I'm
Who's
would
gonna be Yuna's shadow?
It's
I
either,
don't have to her anymore. I'll
It's either
stick
you-
around with her.
then in that case, I will just kind of float and try and hear on conversations somewhat subtly.
I really like the idea that Rofi pops off his backpack, then jumps up and sits on the backpack.
Yeah, it's like you guys are at a table for 4 and there's 4 people on it, and you're like, oh, well, I'll make myself a last seat.
Yeah, I'm basically just fucking being Yuna's dad right now. Like, just following her around and, like, if you go to, like, do something, like, gambling, just be like, be careful. Don't be unwise with your money.
Ooh, you know what? That's a great idea. Let's gamble.
She's
you know
got
what I would
quarters? God damn it. She's
Well-
got pickups.
Oh, of course you did, yeah. Oh, no.
She has 19s.
So Rofi, while all the shenanigans are happening and drinking, he is going to be preparing the ritual detect magic. Just over time. And tell me when I can do my checks and look around and stuff. I'll pop it now, just so you know it's happening. He basically he's fiddling with his faceplate and helmet, and like grabbing things out of his back and like slotting them in, ready to.
What, are you looking for anything in particular, or just kind of glancing around to see what you see?
Magical protections, magical he's looking for.
He's thieving.
Well, no, he not actually. He's actually looking for things he can copy and learn from. Basically.
Okay. Yeah, so thieving. Just
Well,
ideas.
yeah, technically, yes. It's a different type.
You
Sorry.
you can give me a investigation check with advantage, I suppose, for that.
Ooh, yes.
Something you notice and this would be something that Rofi knows, is that a lot of places in the Underdark have magical protections on them. Because there are things that can shake the ground very easily. Although there's a lot less of that than you were warned about by people. This place, you can actually see that the walls themselves are coated by when you detect magic, very delicate, very almost divine warding that sort of protects the place. It seems to be a little bit more than just protecting it from monsters. You think it might be protecting people from sight and making sure that things are, this place is a little calmer and less rowdy than maybe it's meant to be. A lot of people are carrying around magical items in a place like this because the Underdark of Jarviskjir is far more magical than the above world. Something that interests you very much is that there actually is a Duros, something that the others wouldn't have noticed, that is sort of standing by a dwarven merchant who's drinking and kind of dancing along a little bit. The Duros, the magic from inside that thing is just incredibly curious to any inventor, and things like that.
Okay. Hiroshi would then be the annoying person, come over, and while Yuna's dancing, just keep trying to poke her and just, Yuna.
What? What?
Duros. Your robot friend.
Oh.
You look over there and you see a Duros that looks... You gotta remember that Torum was redesigned to be a little bit more easy on a drow's eye. A traditional Duros has this just very flat face plate that doesn't resemble much of a human's face. And it's just kind of standing there in a very robot-y way. Its head kind of moves from side to side. It's actually standing, leaning on what seems to be the dwarf's walking stick. It's made of a kind of silvery material, and the light inside is glowing out red.
I will go over and introduce myself.
To the dwarf.
And the Duras as well.
What do you say?
Hi, I'm Yuna.
Ah!
Stick up my hand.
I don't think I've ever met a Yuna, but in places like this, you can be surprised sometimes. And big dwarven hand shakes small elvish hand. It's like, my name's Darkspur.
It's wonderful to meet you. I was just admiring your companion.
Aye, he's a fine piece of work, and like clanks him with his knuckles.
I don't suppose you have any information or advice for us, but I had one. His body was broken, but I managed to keep his soul intact.
He kind of like turns.
I haven't been able to reunite the two.
He just looks at the Duros, and Duros like, You must be mistaken, my lady. We do not have souls. We are but mere automata, constructed to serve.
I'm actually quite the expert in souls, and this one had a soul.
I'm kind of standing a little bit further away, but I am listening. I want to roll an insight on the Duros to see if it knows something.
Well, that's a good idea, yeah. Rofi would just flat say, I do not think that is the case.
Yeah, it seems that the Duros knows that's not the case, but like that's the thing to say, right?
Right. Yep. Okay.
Right, well, do you have any advice for me reconnecting this energy to his body?
I don't know how things like this work. Maybe someone else here does. It's just a machine. It's just like a machine for plowing crops and chastising slaves. It's just a machine to guard bodies.
Can I roll an insight on him to see if he's lying?
With the detect magic, when I if I move my hand in front of it, do I see like because its eyes obviously don't move. Do I see like magic energy moving with the hand, watching the hand?
No, not really. it's still kind of the thing that you can see with detect magic on a Duros is that you can kind of see the runes inside the machine glowing with magic. Of course, they're dwarven magic runes, so knowing that is a little hard. Will, you do with that what you will.
Oh, this is actually. If he could see stuff like that, like this would be like field day for him. He would just be writing down everything. Not even if he can't see the rune, he'd be writing down that there are runes on the inside, and that's where the magic's stored and stuff like that.
Viduros kind of looks down for a bit and then back and is like, "Would you allow me to escort you and buy you a drink at the bar, Lady Yuna?"
Thank you. I would love that.
It'll kind of put a hand on your back and walk you towards the bar, like around the corner, and you just kind of feel its eyes on you in almost a pleading way, right? You kind of feel the emotion inside the thing, even though this has even less emotion than Torum ever had.
Yeah.
And it does order a glass of wine and pay for it.
I'm gonna put my hand over it, and I'm just gonna be, "Are you okay?"
I think you know more than even those who know. The creation of our kind is secret. I've heard rumors of those who know more, who found out more, who run away. But that is not my place.
Do you need help?
I believe I am. I will be functioning correctly and continue with my service.
Okay, because we can get you out. I turned to Boss, right? Right, Boss?
Yes.
Something to notice, Rakath has sat down beside the door. Continue.
Oh no. What's Rakath gonna do?
I rolled a 1.
Yep.
I'm gonna sense emotions.
Oh god, in this room.
It's a feels similar to what the samurai felt, but there's a lot more. There is a lot more sadness behind it.
Oh.
He will actually take this. This Duros basically has like a fanny pack that's clearly of the dwarf's things, and actually take out a tiny bit of slate and a chisel, and kind of like a printer does like that, and it kind of chips out runes in Dwarven, and it's 3 runes, and you would recognize the last 2 being Duros, because, well, it's 3 words. Because Dwarven words and runes work slightly differently. But you definitely, and because you know that Duros have a name, that the first one is probably the name of someone, and he says, "Of those who know about us, there is those who make us, and those who free us. This is who frees us." And kind of like leaves it actually as the coaster for your drink, and we'll kind of just walk back through the crowds to the dwarf, who hasn't noticed Rakath really. And when Viduros steps back, he will say, "Is this creature bothering you?" And he's like, "Oh, no. This is a free place. He can sit where he wants, I suppose." And Viduros like nods and just sort of stands ready at the side.
I'm gonna look very sad up at Boss.
I mean, the response is the typical response. He's gonna look at you and say, "I mean, we can take him if you want."
He'll Rofi will like tug on Yuna's dress and just sort of pull her aside. If we're gonna do this, we need to do this cleverly, not in here. Wait for them to leave.
Okay. Do you have a plan?
No, it's just instinct.
Oh, okay. Well, I will follow your instinct then. Instincts can be very strong.
His people may be used to doing this sort of thing a lot more.
So, I'm gonna go gamble then while we're waiting for things to progress.
Do you say that, or are you just getting
like it's like I'm gonna go gamble. Fine.
It's like, okay, well, we'll just bide our time then, and I'll get up.
I just kind of looked at the two of you and
what was that?
I missed what you said.
Mine was Rofi is gonna go watch her gamble.
Yeah, fair.
And like just math it out.
And just kind of looking to the two of them, like knowing Rofi is smart and Yuna is literally capable of seeing the future. So they were like, okay, you guys will be fine. What I would like to do is actually, because we're up at the bar, is buy a bottle of sake from this guy.
2 gold for good stuff.
Yeah, that's fine.
And with that purchase, let's take a real quick break, Reno. Be back in a moment.